BLG coming in against TT. TT on the blue, BLG on the red. And for TT, they're 1-8. They don't really have much to lose from this series. No one's really expecting much from them. But I think the big thing from us in terms of expectations is to see Xiaopeng on these early game junglers. We, of course, seen him on the Rex side. We've seen him on a couple of different, big early game picks. We'll see if he's willing to bring those out again today.
Yeah, well, already we can see in a lot of these early big picks are already banned away. Diego, Diana, and Akali taken away by TT. Renekton, actually surprising to see that banned away. It slipped a little bit when you come towards the priority that we've seen for that pick coming into patch 11.13, but still Xin Zhao banned away. So the two big junglers taken off the board. Hell, even Diego kind of sitting into that as well. So I think jungle certainly rise up priority here, which is why we're seeing Xiaopeng lock in that early VC.
See what way they want to go for in the later stages. Of course, BLG going to be locking in the volley bar. Of course, lots on the table here for everybody. You mentioned obviously the big solo picks, but the LeBlanc locked in here for Zika, definitely something he's very, very comfortable with.
Yeah, LeBlanc has kind of risen up as that first pickable mid lane. Now we have seen picks like the Lissandra come in to try and go against the Sylas as well. Has been the other go-to counter pick, so I'm curious to see if we do get that, but I have a feeling that here for Weiwei, that is going to be a volley bear jungle for Weiwei. When you see kind of the pinch that's already been put towards that jungle pool, it does make a hell of a lot of sense. And no, okay, yeah, I was gonna say Lissandra makes a hell of a lot of sense here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Varus lock in here for Sam D. Very strong pick still, and kind of puts pressure onto aiming to be like, okay, cool, well, what do you actually have to try and go against this here?
Of course, aiming pretty solid with something like the Ezreal. I feel like the Draven Hover is kind of more of a shout out to, look, we know you're probably going to pick the Ezreal here. We're going to go with the Kalista anyway, so there's a lock in there for TT. But aiming, despite having bad lanes, despite having, difficulty in certain matchups, he has come out big time in the team fights for the side of BLG, specifically on something like the Ezreal.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where we're expecting this to go now, is like these big carries. So Aphelios, Jinx now step up because you've got that Thresh lock in there coming through for PP God. So I think we'll see some of those banned away, but I'm actually surprised to see the Kalista come through from Sam D. Like, we've seen it from him in the past, but he's actually opted in towards much more passive laning phases, right? Ezreal, Varus, I mean, we've seen Kog'Maw, even the Ashe. It's not like he's been playing the super aggressive style with Pudding, so I'm surprised to kind of see that they are taking this in the thought process that a Varus pick will come through, and they've already got the Kalista matchup there for themselves.
See what way they want to finish off themselves. Of course, BLG now focusing on that support pool. I like this, taking away the hard engagers who work incredibly well with the Kalista, the Leona Nautilus banned away. TT, though, they're actually banning away the Draven themselves. They don't want that matchup in particular, and now they've got themselves one last ban. You would imagine it would be another AD carry ban, maybe the Aphelios, just to try and stop that from, oh no, the Jinx, excuse me, to stop that comboing up with the Thresh. So the Aphelios still very much on the table here for BLG.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the lighter of the two evils here coming through for TT, right? Because when you got Lissandra, it's easier for you to get onto an Aphelios and lock him up with that ultimate versus something like a Jinx who's got far more range to play with. So I think it'll be here trying to see if he can get on towards that backline, lock up this Aphelios, and give TT a bit of an easier time in these team fights. But certainly TT, they're very all in on this early to mid game. Not a huge amount of late game scaling here, so unless they try to swap in towards something like the Gwen here in the top lane for Long Xing, or you're not really going to have too much of that bit of safety net when you get towards the later portion of the game.
Well, the Rakan locked in, so definitely a hell of a lot of engage down on top of Aiming's Aphelios should you need it. You've got the Grand Entrance, of course, the Lee Sin ward hop into the Dragon's Rage kick. You mentioned the Lissandra. Now you're looking to just round this composition out here for the side of TT. See what you want to maybe lock in the Mundo. It doesn't do a lot for the side of TT, in my opinion. It feels like it's just kind of a meat wall, but that's what they want.
Yeah. I'm actually not a big fan of Mundo in these kind of situations. Mundo, I personally find that he works really well when you've got a composition that has like a bit more range, and you're able to use this Mundo to kind of like tank up a lot of the CC, absorb a lot of the damage, and try and kind of play keep away from your backline. But when you're in a composition like this, it becomes a little bit more difficult for Mundo to have these big moments, because LeBlanc is going to just bypass him. You've got the opportunity of Volley Bear to run past him as well. Now, he can play a lot of kind of kind of goalkeeping, I suppose, for Aphelios, stopping him from getting in deep and trying to make a lot of these plays. But look at TT's composition, right? It's such a short-range composition that chances are Aiming is going to be able to fire away onto a couple of these other champions that are going to be in the thick of things and just ignore Long Xing for a large portion of this.
Well, we are seeing, of course, you mentioned earlier, the Volley Bear going to be going into the hands of Weiwei, as the last pick was the Gwen for Biu. And just looking at BLG, of course, you know, coming into the split, they made a couple of changes, took a lot of V5 out of their squad and brought them into their own. But for BLG, they went 6-10 in spring, so one win now will put them equal in terms of win record for last split. And again, 11th, just outside of playoffs. They are still hunting for that, but it needs to start here. They need to garner momentum. We mentioned, of course, their next strength of schedule. The next 4 games are very, very difficult games for them to come up against. And right now, they need to start moving forward and pushing themselves into a position of power.
Yeah, and I think, look, this is a definitely a draft where I think BLG can do a lot, right? You've got the late game scaling coming in with the Gwen there. You've got a late game scaling coming in from your Aphelios. So if you actually just kind of hold out from this early stage, you're in a really good spot for BLG, and it's not like you've got terrible matchups anywhere. Gwen actually does really well against Mundo in those early stages, and especially if you're getting a bit of jungle pressure up that top side, it can help out in that matchup. The only issue that I'm really going to see is just the Kalista in the spot and the Lissandra in the mid lane. That's what sets up a lot of early playmaking potential for TT. I'm going to have to see if Xiaopeng can try and play around this top and bot side, set up for these early dragons, and try and force BLG into these uncomfortable spots thanks to the dragon stacking.
Well, if there's one thing Xiaopeng has been able to do for TT this season, or this split, has been to be able to be that early game menace, that man who makes the plays, and he has been the shining light for what has been a very disappointing start and possibly end to the split here for the side of TT, as they are reaching up to their 16 games very rapidly. We are on to the Rift for Game 1 of this best of 3, TT versus BLG. Drop a ward, go back, pick up a sweeper. You're pretty happy with that?
Yeah, ward for ward, just making sure there's no funny business happening in the bot side. But I think at the early stage here for TT is to certainly see Xiaopeng try and path from top in towards that bottom side. I really want to see him getting aggressive early, especially towards the end in this mid lane. Even when you're running Electrocute here as Lissandra as well, like, you're all in on this laning phase. So make sure that you're playing up aggressive against Zika and being able to set Ye ahead and then enact more pressure across the map.
For Xiaopeng, you look at him as well as a carry for the side of TT. 21.6% damage percentage, the 3rd highest out of junglers in the league. He really has been the tryhard as such for his team, as we now see the wards now being taken and the grand entrance committed. Aiming taking an unfavorable trade, but the Flay is there to try trade that one back onto Pudding. Both supports trying to garner control over this mid bush. The battle for the control of the lane really does begin early.
Yeah, you see a lot of trading back and forth, and Amy kind of correctly identifying Sam D didn't have his rend, so happy to go for these more aggressive trades and actually end up coming out on top. And BLG do get advantage now in this push, should hit level 2 first, but they do have to be careful because TT can still shove back, make it a little bit uncomfortable for Amy and PP God, especially as we said, Xiaopeng pathing down towards this bottom side.
And right now, here we go. Flash in with the grand entrance. They're going to drop down the ignite as well. But the play is good from PP God. Should be able to get a hook off, but the minion there to keep him safe and alive. We do see the cube forward from Sam D. He needs to be a little bit careful as he has no real support. But again, more and more aggressive trading being traded back and forth between these two bot lanes.
I mean, MVP minion right there. Tanks the hook, tanks the Q coming in from the Aphelios as well. Means that the Sam D gets that trade. So certainly TT coming out on top. And now though, Weiwei is making his way down towards the bottom side. No vision, but Xiaopeng will meet him in the brush.
Or Weiwei will. In fact, there's going to be an immediate engage. First blood goes over to the Kalista. And now Weiwei finds himself in a little bit of a predicament as he tries to run himself away. Does have his flash should he needed to go over the wall. May need to just use it. Yep. And has to lose his summoner for it. So, early advantage going to TT once again.
Oh, Xiaopeng's followed up, though.
Yeah, he's going to keep going for this one. This is a difficult one for Xiaopeng. The smite is there. It's good. Will he be able to do enough? No. Pudding picks himself up another, and that's 2 quick kills. But with the Gravitum, aiming is now here, and it's an all-out brawl around the blue buff. You can now see Zika going in, but deleted where he stands. And now TT have exploded onto the Rift with an almost 2k goal lead.
This is again where, like, your friend jumps off a cliff, and your mother's like, just don't follow your friend off the cliff. BLG didn't listen. They all jumped off the cliff and they're all in a lot of pain. PP God goes way too aggressive, way too early in that, and it's just a cacophony of different mistakes here. We actually don't even see PP God, who went that bit early. Xiaopeng here does just follow up on Weiwei. I actually really like this. Like, look at where Lysandra is. She's already moving across, making sure she's able to cover this. You know that even though Weiwei's trying to get the smite to keep that alive, you get the smite again coming through from Xiaopeng. And here, you're in a 4 versus 3. Now, yes, some of these members are super low as TT, but PP God is going to be a null factor in this. You can see already the mid laner there for BLG going down before you even have PP God as a factor in that fight.
And already you see the nice spread of the kill participation. You get one for the Kalista, one for the Lee Sin, the 2 early game champions that do need the early gold and early experience to become monsters in their own right within that mid game setup. And it's why we've seen less and less Lee Sin in the jungle, is that he just benefits so much more from that solo lane experience, the solo lane gold that he's able to garner. This is the perfect start for the side of TT, and BLG, they need to just calm down, give it a little bit of a moment, because that is, I don't know what that was, but that wasn't it.
Yeah, and look, especially for BLG, who we said already are the late game team, right? They don't need to be forcing these fights. It's TT who need to. So when BLG are given these advantages, it actually becomes more of a thorn on their side. And this is now gives the opportunity for TT to start to have Xiaopeng play through this bottom side of the map. He can invade on towards Weiwei, get himself a quadrant of the map extra for himself. You could use the pressure that Ye now has in mid lane as well to start playing towards these dragons, especially with Sam D having picked up these boots. Like, this Kalista takes on a whole new level because of the extra leap range and makes it really hard for aiming to play up into this matchup.
And Aphelios behind is not what you want to see. We now see Xiaopeng moving in towards this mid lane. Path of Frost used there by it's going to be pretty easily distorted away from, but Xiaopeng doing what he does best, just being a nuisance, being in the lanes active, forcing people back and getting himself some priority to then, like you said, create those quadrants where they can get those advantages.
And I want to start seeing TT look for these dives. You've just pushed in mid. They are going to turn towards Dragon for the moment, as Pudding will get locked up, but I think if you can actually use Xiaopeng's pressure mid, push that wave in, get Ye access to this bottom side, especially when she hits 6, as Ye actually just has, you can then look to just lock up aiming, and between like Pudding, CC, Sam, D, Xiaopeng there as well, that Aphelios is not going to be long for the world.
Well, they must have listened to you during the Champ Select, as they are starting the Dragon stacking nice and early, about 6 minutes 20 seconds as the first one goes down. And TT, they will be given either an Ocean or an Infernal Soul once that one does eventually spawn, but now for the side of BLG, it's all about stemming the bleeding. It's all about stabilizing the game, getting yourself back into a winning position, because right now, I think bot lane, you just have to survive, and I think you need to start looking towards maybe top or mid.
And this has been what BLG usually go for, right? It has been putting all these resources into Bubu. The problem is just because of this mess up in the early game down bot side, Weiwei now has to be a lot more shy. He's way behind Xiaopeng. Like, level 6 already hit for Xiaopeng. Level 5 only just hit for Weiwei. So if he tries to go up towards this top lane matchup, you always run the risk of Xiaopeng showing up and just using that level advantage to wipe you out.
Optimistic hook from PP God. I don't know if he really wanted to take that fight, but with the 2 guns they have for aiming, I feel like they definitely felt there was an opportunity for the Aphelios Thresh bot side to maybe get something going for them, but not to be, as we now look to see what Xiaopeng is doing. Good wards here from the side of BLG, specifically obviously on the top side, where they're able to track where Xiaopeng is, and this is limiting his scope, as we see PP God taking a couple of spears in the back, but having eyes on Xiaopeng is a good step for BLG to stabilize this game.
Yeah, but they've lost him already. He's hopped over the wall, now up top side against Bubu. Weiwei is here, but again, a little bit of an advantage here for TT just in the gold department.
And they have to go. TT recognizing that in this 2v2, they probably don't come out the victors, specifically when you look at Zika roaming up from mid. He had the push in, so immediately was trying to make that a winnable skirmish for his team. And now, in a little bit of trouble as the ethereal chain does land down. And obviously, we talk about how Lissandra is a small counter. As I say, that hook lands. PP God, again, needs to be a little bit careful, taking a lot of damage. Both supports pushing the very, very limits. It was in a night for a heal traded in the bot side.
Yeah, I want to go back to your point though, because like I do agree that like you do get a pretty big counter here with the Lissandra, right? Because you're able to lock up the LeBlanc as soon as she goes in, but with your W and the ult, and you get to make plays like this that we're going to see. Claw straight into that lockup, but Weiwei is doing a really good job of matching Xiaopeng on a lot of these plays, kind of understanding, hey, if we end up giving TT priority mid, they can start to roam down. Well, I want to see it towards this bottom side. I don't know if we're going to get it. TT seemed pretty hard pushed on getting Longxing now, even where I think like Mundo ahead doesn't really matter in this game. Just work towards your mid and bot side.
We'll wait to see what they decide to do with the slight pressure they have. Pudding now moving into this mid lane. Xiaopeng still very much spotted on this ward as they start up the Rift Herald here for BLG, and they own this top side. They have the push priority in top and mid, so this is a very, very easy objective for BLG and should be a good push towards equalizing that goal deficit. But now it's a little bit of a split setup. Weiwei might have to ult over the wall. Nope, never mind. He's got himself a dark passage. But speaking of passages, they go in with the Lissandra, trying to jump in on top of all these members now as we got the quickness to charm some people up. Zika flashing away. The Aphelios in with the Moonlight Vigil to try and ring this one back in the favor of BLG. Xiaopeng goes down. Zika is not afraid. Look at his health bar as he walks away. He has no fear in him whatsoever, and it's been completely turned on its head. 3 kills, maybe even 4, as Pudding's forced to flash over, and that's a perfect fight for BLG.
And it's mistakes like this that end up putting TT so far behind in the early stages of the game. Like, they are 15th when it comes to their goal difference of 15, and it's where Rift Herald starts, the problems start for TT. And you can see it here, right? When you look at this, watch on the replay where Sam D is. Because the entire time that this fight's happening, Sam D is continuously trying to walk to the play. He had the later reset in bot lane, so as he's trying to come up here, you can see, look, he's only walking up mid lane, whereas Aphelios is already in a position to move across. We talk about that big Moonlight Vigil we're about to see in a second, but they just can't quite burst out Zika, who ends up being able to flash away. And then Sam D is just not actually impacting this fight whatsoever. He's the guy with all the gold on TT right now because he picked up so much of those early kills, and from that position it's essentially just a 4 versus 5 for BLG where they're able to win it out.
2 auto attacks. The Callista got 2 auto attacks off in that entire skirmish. That is negligible damage right there. And again, Zika, gotta give massive props to. Despite getting chunked out, despite losing his flash, he went in on the distortion to make sure they got that massive AoE push. They got the massive amount of damage down. And for BLG, they are now back in the lead just about in this game. And we can see now aiming might be in a little bit of trouble, but nope, dodges out the Sonic Wave. You did have the Lissandra roaming down, so would have been a slight advantage for the side of TT, as Longxing now just tanking up the Gwen. This is pretty much what's going to happen now forever. The Gwen will push in, will have kill pressure, but very difficult unless Longxing makes a big mistake on the Mundo.
Zika just spotting out Xiaopeng here, and one of the things that I want to talk about is like when we look towards compositions that have this crazy late game scaling like the Gwen and Aphelios we're seeing in BLG, they need a concept of a bridge, which is something that's going to bring them from that early game to the late game, so they don't just have like losing lanes across the board and they just get rolled over by TT. And LeBlanc is that bridge. I mean, she's got 2 kills now for herself. That is going to set up BLG so nicely to have Zika threaten back line, just try and zone TT in these fights, and stop TT from being able to play as aggressive as they want to. Now, TT are still able to get a lot of this dragons going. This is what we wanted to see for them. So still this 25-minute mark where you're getting 2 items coming through for most of TT, still going to be incredibly strong, but certainly Zika will be able to help break a lot of the stranglehold that TT have in this game.
Well, Inferno Soul is going to be the Rift, as TT get themselves the 2 dragons. Not bad dragons to get as well in isolation. Nice little bit of tankiness, and of course extra ability haste on your ultimate as Weiwei steals away the big wolf as the babies walk themselves back and realize their mom has been killed. And it's a different side of Bambi that I didn't know I was getting. I didn't know I was getting this deep and sad about it.
Bambi
but,
a la wolves, eh? Thanks for that. That's exactly how I wanted to start off on Tuesdays.
Always here for you, buddy. Always here to try and set you up on the right mood. But with BLG now knowing that They have control over this bot side. They have the Immortal Shield Bow now against Sam D, who is sitting on a little bit of gold he hasn't spent yet. So we'll see what way they want to go for it. But the TP has been committed. Aiming going to be getting his Dark Passage and the box. And this is a perfect example as to why when you pick Aphelios, you need Thresh, because it just makes it so much easier to back away from that. And with Rift Herald in the mid lane, BLG are going to be able to take themselves a nice sizable chunk of gold in the lead.
Yeah, it's also a very good example of why when Rift Herald's up available for the other team, you don't hard commit to somewhere on the map that the enemy jungler isn't. Because this is when you're able to get a lot of damage on that mid lane turret, and it was just completely for free. So now again, Zika, you can look at him. 20 CS lead in this mid lane. 2 kills to his name. He's going to have that. I think that it's going to be the Luton's Tempest this game. We have seen a bit of that Everfrost, but more so when you're looking to like try and dissuade a lot of these super heavy dive compositions. But although we have some aspects of that for TT, I don't think we'll see that. I would rather see the Luton's Tempest and actually go for this heavy burst damage on towards Sam D.
Wait and see what way they go for it. Of course, you can look at the breakdown of the plates. 1 plate to Mundo, so he got himself 160 gold, but very much heavily favored here for the side of BLG. Using that Rift Herald in mid lane, having the pressure up in top, just equals a much easier time of taking those early advantages, those early plates, and getting them, again, ahead in the lead. 1.5k, they are very comfortable with where they are. They're picking up those first items, and it's just becoming a ticking time bomb now for the side of TT. They need to find a response, because the longer this game goes, the harder it becomes for them.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem that we're seeing right now, right? Is actually this tower going to go down bot side, but TT just haven't pressured where we talked about them being strongest, right? We want to see Xiaopeng playing through mid side to set up these dives bot lane. We didn't get that. Now it's BLG who are in control, and when you're looking at this Rift Herald about to spawn up, yes, they still have advantage when it comes towards just their composition. Zika will be able to make it out, but still have advantages just because of their composition and the spikes that we're seeing thus far, especially with the Athena's change picked up for Longshin, going to help him out nicely in these fights. But the bigger issue is just you're not really far enough ahead that you're not even ahead where your composition's going to be like, cool, we can power through pre 30 minutes and end this game.
Wait to see what the side of TT want to do. Grand Entrance doesn't really land down, and Pudding takes a lot of punishment because of it. And this is the problem when you pick something like an Ophelio, or sorry, excuse me, like a Rakan. You are an engaged tool, yes, but you are so squishy, and if you don't have your team backing you up, if you don't have your team going 100% in with you on that play, it's just not going to work out for you. You will just be blown up before you can really have an impact. Now with Rift Herald being started, we can see Xiaopeng does land the Sonic Wave, and the TP is being committed here as well, so this will be the Mundo jumping into the fight. They may look to try and go for it. I feel like TT know they need to try and stop this. They need to try and just make some kind of advantage. They will force everyone off and take the Rift Herald. Thank you very much. BLG recognizing they're not quite strong enough yet.
Yeah, BLG didn't want to take that fight. They just wanted to see if they could sneak it away, but unfortunately weren't quite able to. However, this isn't going to be a massively impactful Rift Herald unless TT are able to play out these side lanes correctly. And you can already see, yeah, he started to shove that top lane in. You got Xiaopeng there who's making sure he's safe to do so. And off these resets, they want to see if they can try and collapse onto mid lane and use that Rift Herald to crack open mid lane turret. Because if you don't get a turret cracked open here, this is going to become really difficult for TT to start to push this game forward and accelerate the pace of the game. Now, Dragon up as well. This means it's a really nice Rift Herald timing mid lane, especially as you can see BuBu top side, although he does have TP.
Does have TP available. Of course, they go with the Ignite as well, so very difficult to take him out on a 1v1, but 20 seconds till this Dragon, like you mentioned, and this is where TT, if they can get this is where the game gets a little bit dicey for the side of BLG. They've let the Dragon stack to 2. If they get it to go to 3, and it's an Infernal Soul, becomes very dicey. And right now, TT just trying to make sure they can push out this mid wave, get themselves in a position. The TP is going to be committed here by BuBu. So, full 5v5 is the name of the game. And I feel like TT don't really have a choice. They have to fight around this. The longer they leave it, the worse it becomes.
Yeah, TT kind of missed their window there by going for red buff. They could have plugged that Rift Herald down mid lane and forced priority there, but now TT tried to fight. They don't honestly need to. They could just look to take 2 turrets mid instead, but they want to try and contest.
They want this soul point. The Rift Herald is pushing in that mid lane. Dragon resets, still at about 4,000 HP. There's a hook. It is going to see the Fate's Call to try and save out the support of Pudding. He goes back in, has the quickness. Maybe they look for the fight right here, right now. It's very, very split as the Thresh has been taken out. Now aiming, needs to try and kite this one away, but look on the backside, you can see Weiwei takes out the jungler. That is the most important member of this squad when you're looking for this dragon, and now they look to try and take this one away, but they're kind of in two minds about it. They don't know what they want to go for. They don't know if they want to go for it, but Weiwei gets taken down. The dragon has been secured as well, and TT are running BLG down. BLG just didn't know what they wanted to do.
It was all over the place. So we said, look, right now, TT are stronger just because of the items that they have and because of the way their composition functions, and especially with the way BLG played that. It was so messy. And now TT should be able to push on towards this mid lane as well. Zika can't really engage here because you know that you'll get locked up by Ye if you try and contest this.
And now, like we mentioned, that dragon stacking, you are now 4.5 minutes until that dragon soul. You have to fight at that if you're BLG, and this is where things get a little bit dicey. But again, we talk about the replay here. It's just so disjointed. They didn't really have a full call.
Yeah, I think unfortunate for PP God that he tosses down the box here, because box super useful in these kind of fights for peeling, for aiming. But you can see there, right, 3 members essentially in the pit for BLG, and then you got T2 who've just all collapsed onto aiming. He gets 0 peel, apart from PP God, it goes down. So aiming's now out of the fight, and then this weird trying to contest Dragon, but not actually contest the fight. So you just end up getting poked down. TT turn around with the engage, and Zika, again, not really in a position here to try and get on towards SamD, threaten that backline access in the manner where he actually needs to be successful in these fights.
I think the big thing there, BLG clearly made a call to try and burst down the dragon, but there was no smite for Weiwei, as we can see a hook coming out, good flay, Pudding, and a lot of hurt, and is back to the Shadow Realm, and that might be a Baron take here. There is TP available for in that bot side, but BLG, they're barreling towards it. They may want to try and take this objective.
You can see Ye has gone for the reset now as well. He's going to have to TP in towards this fight. Longxing is on the backside, but it does mean that if PP God lands a hook here, there's no real tank here for the likes of SamD.
Ooh, they have spotted him out. Longxing just kind of walks past everybody. Dragon down to about 7,000 HP. We can see Xiaopeng nearly gets hooked out there by the death sentence, but objective confirmed here by TT. They have stopped the Baron being taken, and they will be able to get this mid lane tier 1. So, looking now at 20 minutes into the game, coming up to 21, we have a fairly even gold lead. But again, the big thing to notice is those 3 dragons that have stacked.
But unfortunately for BLG, because they don't get the Baron, they lose that mid lane turret. I would have preferred to see them just try and get vision control set up for this Baron, because this is more impactful where you're trying to prevent TT from just turning and rushing it like this. Now you've got resets coming through from PP God, and TT are looking to burst down this Baron.
They have the Wrens stacked. They should be able to secure it regardless of what Weiwei does, and now we'll see what TT want to do. Do they fully commit? Is this just a big Baron bait? You get the crescendo to give them a little bit of one, but we can see them going over the wall. It's secured by TT, and now they can take the fight. The Moonlight Vigil will only do so much. It just cannot do enough. It will take down 1, but they lose 2. And now BLG, they're falling apart. TT are capitalizing time after time over BLG, just making scrappy and panicked decisions.
It's just BLG not respecting TT's composition. Like, there's been so many times this game, you look at like that initial skirmish that we had in bot side jungle where BLG just tossed person after person into TT. Now we're seeing it again where they just don't respect the Kalista damage that she can do towards this Baron, especially with Rend. And you can see Weiwei and Bubu go over the wall here. They just don't have the smite damage. There's no reason for Bubu to be in this pit either. Like, unless you're trying to burst it down with the true damage, but that's a long shot when you're up against the smite and also the Rend coming through, and that can be timed so well on TT's side. So BLG now giving a little bit more gold over towards TT, but only 1,500 gold lead, but still that Baron now going to be in the hands of SamD and this potential push.
And this is the big thing. You have a minute until Dragon. That's Dragon's soul. And yes, it's only about a 2,000 gold lead, but you get the side waves in order. You're able to put pressure down onto BLG and say, look, we know you're going to fight around this Dragon pit. We can put Mundo in top. We can make sure that that wave is pushing and still be here and available for this fight. Have a quick look at the items before we do come into this. You have got 2.5 items onto the Aphelios, so not quite at 200 years just yet. You are moving towards that Gwynzo's Rage Braid for Sam D as well. So the 80 carries still feeling pretty good if a fight is to break out. Mundo is now here with his Frostfire Gauntlet. We can see now the Shrelia is going to be used as they try and maybe find out somebody. BLG might be in a little bit of trouble though. No flash to get out, and he's dead. Now how are you going to contest this? You're 5v4.
Yeah, it's a complete disaster here for BLG. It's now done and dusted. TT should be able to get this, and I think this is where it becomes really hard for BLG as well, because when you're looking at these picks, I want to talk briefly, if I get a chance, about the combo between Anathema's Chains and Lysandra, because the debuff you get from the Anathema's Chains gives 30% decreased tenacity. So you end up having this 30% increase in the amount of time you're locked up. And when you're looking for these picks with Lysandra, if you've paired this correctly, it becomes nigh on impossible to escape away from it. Lock up from the ultimate from Lysandra, into the W, into the Everfrost. You are not getting to move if TT managed to get their hands on you. And we saw that there for Bubu. He just couldn't get away from them.
Now TT with the Infernal Soul. They've only got a couple more seconds of this Baron, so they'll probably pick up this tier 1 in bot side and get all of those off the map. It is not all doom and gloom for BLG. They still have exceptional scaling coming into this late game, but it is all on TT. TT are the ones with the advantages. They are the ones that have made the use out of this early game composition they built, and they are the ones just punishing BLG time and time again.
Yeah, the problem here is just that BLG do keep getting caught out, right? It never feels like we actually get a straight up 5v5. Hell, the only one that we really got was kind of up towards that initial Rift Herald, where even that was without Sam D. So we're still yet to see these teams come to blows. And when you're looking at, okay, 5 minutes until this Elder Dragon's going to spawn, you should, as aiming, be up towards your your Infinity Edge. For Gwen, she should be able to complete her Zanya, start working towards that Cosmic Drive. Like, you're going to be in a much better position here as BLG. But with that Infernal Dragon on, it becomes so difficult for you to actually try and contest this. It's such a big impact for TT, who are playing this early game composition. The extra ounce of scaling that gives you is very impactful here.
Important to note as well, the only person with anti-heal right now is Bubu on the Gwen. He's the only one with the Oblivion Orbs, so if he's not on the Mundo becomes impossible to kill until you have those 4 items or 3.5 items onto your Aphelios. So right now, TT feeling very, very comfortable with the itemization, with the way the compositions have fanned out and created themselves. We can see now pushing in this top lane tier 2, should be able to pick that one up without any issues. Minute 30 or a minute, just over it until that Baron does spawn. TT, they're just roaming around as a death squad, making sure they're not getting caught out. I like this from them, making sure that they're not losing any kind of advantage just before this Baron spawns.
Yeah, I think it's a good shout here from TT to be able to group up, but this is why I actually disagree with Bubu's build slightly. He's going towards the Nashor's Tooth. Nashor's Tooth is great when you're playing more of a side lane split pusher style where you're able to go toe-to-toe against Longxing, but when you've got an Elder Dragon in 3.5 minutes, Baron up in a minute, like, these are going to be team fight. You're behind, you're not going to have the opportunity as BLG to sit nicely in your side lanes and try and play a 1-3-1. You need to play towards the circumstances of the game, and something like a Zanya's is going to be way more impactful. Something like a Cosmic Drive is going to do more for you, but unfortunately, he is committed to this Nashor's Tooth, still way away from being able to complete it as well. And I'm just feeling like TT just have more strength in their composition and with the item builds that they have.
Oh, hang on, I think I hear something. I think it's the Aphelios 3 item alarm coming off in the distance as he has finished off his Infinity Edge. So that is your win condition now for the side of BLG. I do agree with you that right now, in terms of every piece combined, TT should still have the advantage, but you can never count out an Aphelios late into the game. It's 3 items, has got that stopwatch, and oh, Zika! Almost getting 1v1 there by Zhao Peng, and that might be enough to just get him off away from this Baron. It's going to at least force the TP.
Yeah, and I mean, the way you play this now as TT is you just have 3 members start this up. Ye plays keep away, because if he ever manages to lock up someone, we already talked about how like strong it is alongside Everfrost for Lissandra, that person doesn't get to move, and you can see he's hunting for aiming this entire time, trying to see if he can set up for TT to burst this Aphelios. Stopwatch or not.
Well, Aphelios playing a little bit aggressive. Doesn't have the greatest guns right now for taking the Baron, but they're pretty good at just keeping everyone at bay, keeping everyone away from where he is, and that does stop the Baron take from the side of TT. They haven't taken that one just yet. Right now, you're just waiting to see what the next call is. They need to make a decision soon, though, because it will become a trade-off of Elder for Baron if they're not careful. And it looks like they're going to go straight back onto this Baron pit and try and just find a catch.
Yeah, it's the pick that they're really looking for. BLG actually is reset, which is why we're seeing BLG playing a little bit slow, but TT haven't realized. Now they've started this up, but BLG should be back into the picture before this becomes a major issue.
That Q did so much damage there to Weiwei as he goes in. Good CC buffer there from Longxing using his passive. Now with the Baron down to about 4,000 HP, do you go for this? Do you just try and burst this one down? Here we go. Moonlight Vigil comes over. It's Kalista who gets it with the Rend. The Dark Passage immediately out does mean that BLG will lose nobody, but the Baron is still dead. No Xiaopeng. He went a little bit too far, a little bit too hard, and PP God gets himself that kill. There's the Zhonya's here from Yez. He tries to keep himself alive, and this is the Aphelios I talked about. You can't underestimate the damage he will put out. Now Longxing, you are the tank. You need to keep this Kalista and Rakan safe. It looks like he will. His briefcases are just filled with bricks at this point, and they are smashing the faces of BLG. But now, a couple of seconds until this Elder Drake has spawned, you can see Longxing trying to be a nuisance, trying to stop them from getting the resets.
Aiming, though, can take down this Mundo. So, yes, they stopped those resets coming through, but it does mean you bought a bit of time here for TT to try and get their members back up. But this fight from TT was a mess from start to finish. Like, we actually highlighted that BLG were tossing members into a lost fight earlier on, but this is TT kind of repaying the favor here. Xiaopeng tries to go over the wall here. Like, here's the Rend on the Baron. But this from Xiaopeng, so aggressive. Like, they're nobody in position here. You can see they're not even on the same page. Ye is starting to recall. He only now goes over with the Ice Claw, and he does try and get the lockup on towards aiming, but doesn't even manage to get it into a position where TT can follow up. So now, BLG back on towards this Elder Dragon. Baron still up and available, and aiming's caught!
Aiming, why are you by yourself? He has to use the stopwatch. The Dark Passage is not going to be taken. And now TT, they don't care about the Elder Drake. They can just run up mid.
And they're going to be able to try and close this out. They've got the creeps here, and they can try and make these picks. Keep your eyes on Ye. See if he's able to get on towards the back line of BLG. I mean, if he catches BLG, this is lights out.
Oh, aiming, you might have just lost your team the game. You cannot be getting caught out like that. And Weiwei jumps in onto but he is just deleted, taken away from this world, and will not be seeing the light of day, at least in this game. The Nexus turret 1 falls down. Nexus turret number 2 goes down. And this is looking very, very good for TT fans. Cough, Kelsey Mover, cough, as they take themselves a 1-0 lead against BLG.
And it was great from TT to see them managing to play off this early game composition. We didn't manage to get a heap of this early game pressure and attention that we were hoping for, but capitalizing on BLG's mistakes, finding these early leads, and stacking up these dragons to